Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is ANPR, All Night Project Radio. I'm your host, Ryder, and I welcome you to the broadcast today. I really hope that you guys are doing well today. I know I certainly am. I had a pretty good day. Had a couple of interesting things happen, which we'll go into here in a little bit. But I just wanted to welcome you to the broadcast and just hope that you guys had a good day. Hope that you guys are currently maybe sitting in a chair. Perhaps you may be laying in bed, about ready to go to bed, when you turn on the broadcast. And, well, I'm just glad, whatever you're doing, that you decided to spend some time with us here on ANPR. Now, I was thinking about some of the things we talked about last broadcast. The very first thing that comes to my mind when we talk about the last broadcast is how I mentioned one of the musical pieces that I've been listening to quite a lot recently that I've held dear to my heart for quite some time. And that is the White Winter Hymnal by the Fleet Foxes. And I figured I really didn't do that justice in our last broadcast. And I think what I should do moving forward is be a little bit more educational and not just leave you with the name of a song, but rather educate you a little bit, educate all of us, myself included, on the history of the song, maybe a little bit about the authors, the artists themselves. So I think we're going to go ahead and start with that tonight on this broadcast. So, the artists in question are called Fleet Foxes. They are an American indie folk band. They were formed in Seattle, Washington. I am reading from Wikipedia here as I get some of this information. They became popular in 2008 with their second album entitled Sun Giant. However, the song that I am referring to is called White Winter Hymnal. It's the very first single of the Fleet Foxes, and it debuted in 2008. It was released by European label Bella Union on July 21st, 2008, and it was actually released, interesting fact, on a 7-inch vinyl as well as digitally. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I'm actually a fan of vinyl, and I used to collect back in the day, quite a few years ago. I certainly do wish that I still had my vinyls and my player. It was always a nice hobby that I thoroughly enjoyed. I never had an amazing setup or an amazing collection. I basically just went around from pawn shop to pawn shop looking for albums of perhaps music I knew, sometimes music I didn't know, and I would discover some music that way as well. It was a lot of fun. I remember buying my very first record player from a pawn shop, and it was in a briefcase, and you could open the briefcase up, and inside of it was the record player, and that was very nice. I thought it was it was a plastic like briefcase, and it had quite a few Mars on it and whatnot, but it was obviously old, and it still played very well. It didn't need any new needles or anything. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and actually, a funny story is I recall it was around the time that the movie Lilo and Stitch was released by Disney, and I know that my younger siblings really enjoyed watching that movie, and in that movie they feature a lot of Elvis, and they actually have Lilo and Stitch playing Elvis on records, and I thought that was quite interesting, especially since I had just gotten into collecting records. But that is basically what their song, The White Winter Hymnal, is, where it came from, and I feel like now is a good time to actually show you guys, let you hear with your own ears, the song, White Winter Hymnal from the Fleet Foxes. So I'm going to play that, and I will see you on the other side. I certainly hope that you enjoy, and that you're open to newer types of music in case you haven't actually listened to something like this before. Ladies and gentlemen, Fleet Foxes' White Winter Hymnal.
I was following the eye, 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 was following the pack, all swallowed in their coats, with scarves of red tied round their throats to keep their little heads from falling in the snow. And I turned round and there you go, and Michael, you would fall and turn the white snow red as strawberries in the summertime. With scarves of red tied round their throats to keep their little heads from falling in the snow. And I turn round and there you go, and Michael, you would fall and turn the white snow red as strawberries in summertime.
That was the Fleet Foxes with their single White Winter Hymnal. I really hope that you guys enjoyed that audio presentation of their song. There has been a lot of speculation about this song. There is speculation about whether they are talking about children walking through the snow or possibly soldiers walking through the snow. There is speculation on who is Michael. They do mention Michael in the song. Michael, you would fall and turn the white snow red as strawberries in summertime. Who is Michael? They really haven't come out and answered any of these things. When they talk about Michael falling and turning the white snow red as strawberries in summertime, are they referring to soldiers trudging through the snow? One of them gets shot, falls down, and his blood makes the snow as red as strawberries. Are they talking about a child who slips and falls and maybe busts his knee open and turns the white snow red as strawberries in summertime? There's a lot of speculation about this song, and I think, to me, what really stands out about this song is kind of the history of this song. The fact that there are a lot of people out there trying to figure out, what is this song about? What are they specifically talking about? Is this just random phrases cobbled together to sound nice and to sound poetic for this song? Or do they have a deeper meaning? And to me, I really enjoy the fact that Fleet Foxes have not come out and said there is a specific meaning behind it, which has led, of course, to further speculation, which to me, again, just makes the song that much better. So that is a small taste of some of the songs that I appreciate, that I enjoy, and I hope that this has been able to shed a little bit of light on this song, on this group, to you as well. And perhaps you go out and listen to more of their stuff, perhaps you don't, but at least you've heard this, and at least you have a little bit of more knowledge than you would have coming in to the program tonight. So I do want to say that this program is certainly not sponsored by the Fleet Foxes, though it would be nice if it was. Now, some of you out there may be thinking, Ryder, we know that you know how YouTube works, and you've played this audio clip in your presentation, which in its entirety as well, which means that you may have like advertising revenue pulled away from your channel because of this. And again, I've mentioned this before, that I'm not very worried about that at this time. It's going to take quite a bit to get us up there to where revenue might be an issue. But again, I don't do this for revenue. I'm doing this for my fun, for my enjoyment, and hopefully for yours as well. So hope that basically covers that. I'm going to take a quick sip here. It's always good to stay properly hydrated, even though it is the middle of the night. Now, I did not actually start off this program by saying what time it was, so I'll say what time it is now. It is 11:24 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, January 18th, 2018. Now, I'm not exactly sure when this program will go live. I'd like to hope that it'll be available early January 19th, so you'd be able to listen to it still throughout the night, as hopefully you'll be able to do that. If not, then perhaps you'll be able to listen to it tomorrow night, or indeed at any time. Whatever works for you, and whatever time frame, works within your schedule. Just as because these are being recorded at night doesn't mean they have to be listened to at night, and I understand that. It's just kind of the sort of aesthetic that I'm going for, spending my evenings with you, and I'm certainly glad that you're spending your evenings, your days, your mornings with me here on the show. Now, I did mention in the beginning of the show that some interesting things has happened today, and those are things that I do want to share with you because I do think they were quite interesting and quite dynamic. So, I suppose I shall start at the beginning. In the beginning of this conundrum, this crazy happenstance that I was a part of, it was essentially yesterday, so that would be January 17th. I received a random phone call from a friend of mine, a pretty good friend, a friend who lives a couple of blocks away. The phone call said, "Ryder, I need your help." To which, of course, I replied, "Well, what's going on? What do you need?" And my friend stated that he had purchased some books for school. He's also attending college, the same as I am, and I believe he's in his last semester. So he had purchased a book for school. However, he had accidentally sent those books to my address. But here's the kicker. It wasn't just to my address, it was to my previous address. Now, in the past, he had ordered a few things. I believe it was some parts for his computer, and he was also out of town at the time of delivery. So, what he did was he took down my address at the time, my name, my address at the time. He plugged it into his Amazon account so that he would be able to send it to me, who would be home when his parts arrived. Therefore, I'd be able to receive them while he was away. Well, as he was checking out, he explained to me that he checked the billing address, but he did not check the shipping address, which he said he assumed was the same as the billing address. Well, once the package shipped, he had ordered it, I believe it was Monday or possibly Tuesday. Once the package shipped, he decided to check the tracking, and on that, he discovered that it was going to my old address. Now, the issue, of course, is that it was my old address and not my current address, not the address that I am currently residing at this time. Meaning, of course, that I wouldn't be getting the package to my door. This is where the problem really started to compound. Now, the people who are living at the address that I used to live at are actually renting that property from my family. So not a really big deal. People that we still keep in contact with from time to time. So not a problem. Well, I reached out to them, and I spoke to the woman who lives there via texting, and I asked her, I informed her that a package would be coming. I informed her that it was an important package as it contained school books that needed to be within my hands prior to Friday, because school starts on Monday. And I had no way of getting the books to my friend on Monday before his classes, because his classes started quite early, and I knew that I would not be able to go down to their house earlier than that on Monday. So, I texted her, we had some correspondence, and she said, okay, that's no problem. I'll let you know as soon as I receive the package. So I thought, they've not been the most reliable in the past, but it's not that big of a deal. I'm sure she'll just let me know as soon as they get the package, and there won't be a problem. Well, come to find out, she did not share this information with her husband. Her husband was the one who is home at this time. He currently, he works, I believe it's construction, and therefore, during the fact that this is kind of the winter months, he has been laid off. He has some time at the house, and she is still working. So he was the one who would be home during the time of the delivery of the package. However, she did not inform him, and when the package arrived, and the postal serviceman said, "Does Ryder live here?" the man said no, he does not live here. So, unfortunately, the package was then returned to the postman. He took it, and he put it back into his truck, and he drove off. So, I find out this vicariously through, I get a text. The text says, hey, the package did come, however, it was turned away. To which, of course, I got slightly frustrated, especially considering here I am in the middle of a situation that I did not create, but that only I can solve because it's my name on the package. So I have to figure out how to get this fixed, despite the fact that I really have no horses within this race. Pardon me while I take a drink. So, I called the post office, thinking, well, hey, that's the best thing to do, because I'm not sure where this is, and I'm not sure when this happened, so it could have happened 3 to 4 hours ago, or it could have happened immediately. It was about 2 o'clock at the time. I called the post office, which has a 100 number, and not a local number at all. They told me it would take approximately an hour for me to be able to speak to somebody, and I realized if I was calling a 1-800 number, they would have no way of knowing whether or not that package was was still in the truck, if they would be able to make contact with the driver of the truck. I figured that just is not going to happen. So, I call back my friend, and I tell him that basically everything that I have learned. The package was not in fact delivered. It had been taken with the postman as he left, and as it stands, we don't know where this package is. Of course, he was upset, and I was upset as well, because of the fact, of course, that, I had no idea what was going on. I didn't understand why they couldn't, especially since they have correspondence with us, they could not just tell me, your package was delivered here, can you come and get it? Which would have been perfectly simple, though I do understand you don't want somebody else's mail coming to you, so I understand that perfectly fine as well. So, my friend tells me, I will swing by, I'll pick you up, let's head down to the post office and try to see if we can't square this away. I said, that's perfectly fine. I'm still under the weather, but I'm willing to go and do this and take care of this because I am also going to school. I'm also going to college at this time, and I understand you cannot start school without having your books. It's just an impossibility. You'll be far behind. Your professors aren't going to accept that as an excuse, and frankly, it's not really an option. Now, I realize I probably could just stop down on Friday to the post office and pick up the package. That is, of course, if the cold is almost gone, but not quite gone. So I realize that I can stop down at the post office on Friday if the package actually stays at the post office. However, the chances of it staying at the post office are kind of slim, especially since it apparently has a wrong address. I figured, who knows what they're going to do with this package? They very well may call the number, which would probably be 50-50 a chance that it's my number or his number, and hopefully have something rectified. However, if they called his number and my name's on the package and not his name, how are they even going to speak to him? So I didn't know what we were supposed to do. But I figured the best thing to do would be to go and explain the situation to the post office and see what they advised. So, my friend pulls up, I get dressed, I go out there, and we head off to the post office. On the way to the post office, my friend says, it's time to pick up my kids from school, so we have to do that before we go to the post office. Which I checked the time and I saw what time it was, and we did have less than 10 minutes to go pick up his one child. And then after that, 15 more minutes until we had to pick up the second. Then at that point, we were going to be going to the post office to rectify the situation. Now, I was a little bit disturbed by the fact that he raced over to pick me up and then was basically going to leave me in the car for 30 minutes while he picked up his children before we headed over. I certainly would have appreciated if I had known that ahead of time and I could have just been picked up after his children were picked up. However, I figured I'm already in the car. There's no reason to get upset or worried about it. No problems. I'll just chill and hang out with my friend. Even though I'm sick and I don't want to be out in the cold, it's not a problem at all. So we continue on the way, and about a block further, we see the USPS vehicle, the van, parked alongside of a high-rise building. And we see the postman walking back to his van. So we decided we're going to pull in behind him and talk to him. So we pulled up. I hollered out and I said, "Pardon me, sir. I hate to interrupt you while you're working. However, I have a question for you." And he said, "Sure, no problem." And I asked him, I said, "Do you deliver to this street?" And the street that I mentioned was my old street. And he said, "Yes, I do." And I said, "Did you perhaps have a package for Ryder that came by and you were unable to deliver this package because you were told that I don't live there anymore?" And he said, "Yes, I was." And I said, "That's great. Would it be okay if I was to pick it up from you? Here, I have my ID, and I can, identify myself and be able to get my package." And he said, "Yes, no problem." He goes, "I don't even have to see your ID." He goes, "It's no big deal, man." He said, there's no way anybody would have stopped me specifically with that information and not be the right person." And I said, "Okay, I understand that, but I'd still like to show you my identification. I want to make sure that you know who I am and that you can say, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that you've delivered the package to the right person." He said, "That's fine. That's great." So I pulled out my identification. He saw it. He scanned the package, marked it as delivered, handed me the package. I got back in the car, and I was able to present it, of course, at that time to my friend, who was exceedingly happy, and of course I was as well. He said we had a few more minutes, and he was able to take me back to my house, drop me back off before he went to pick up his kids. Now, we had a little bit of talk on the way, and we decided, hey, we talked about maybe hanging out later. We weren't able to do that. He had some stuff going on. I had some stuff going on, so. But it would have been nice to have been able to grab a sandwich or something with him, but we can do that another time. That's no problem. But that was my potentially hours. It could have taken potentially hours to figure this out. I honestly did not know how to present the situation to the Postal Service, saying that he ordered it. It went to my old address. We're trying to chase this package down all over the place. And I was reminded of Jingle All the Way, in a sense. A movie starring Sinbad and Arnold Schwarzenegger. If you guys haven't seen that movie, it's a little bit past Christmas now, being that it's the 18th of January. However, if you haven't seen it, I do recommend checking it out. It's an older movie in the 90s, but it's a pretty funny movie where basically two grown men are chasing after a toy. They're trying to do everything that they can to get a hold of the new Turbo Man doll for their kids. And it just kind of reminded me of that situation where we're both chasing a package, trying to figure out where it is, what's going on with it, things like that. Especially considering Sinbad plays a postal worker. So that was my day. Other than that, had a pretty good day. I enjoyed a nice lunch, some chicken, some onion rings. Thought that was a pretty decent lunch. I really enjoyed it. And for supper, I believe I had some burritos. So let us check the weather here, see what the weather is like. And we have 20 degrees Fahrenheit right now at 11:40 p.m. And it doesn't look like we have any snow coming, which is great because we do have about 7 or 8 inches sitting outside my door here. Last night it snowed quite a bit, and I'm glad to see that there is no snow, though it is obviously still below freezing. It's the plan is for it to be clear and sunny all day tomorrow as well, and I'm pretty excited about that. Hopefully some of this snow, some of this ice will go away and allow me to get off of my hill. I've not technically been snowed in. However, I don't have snow tires on my vehicle at this time, which makes it rather intimidating to come off of my hill. Now, I do have snow tires. I just have not paid to put them on because it costs $120 to put the snow tires on. And then a few months later, it costs another $120 to take the snow tires off. And at this current time, my monetary situation does not really allow for expenditures of that type. So I am currently a full-time student, and therefore I do not have steady income that comes in. I have some income that comes in the beginning of the semester, and that's pretty much what I have to live with. And unless I'm able to procure a part-time job throughout the summer, I will have to still live and pay my bills on what I have currently right now, into the summer and down into fall, where about a month into the school semester in fall is where I will be given some more aid, more help. So, as I said, driving off the hill, getting out of the house, is a little bit of a tricky situation at this time. So, I've been eating a lot of the things that are here at the house, and sometimes we just have to resort to sandwiches, and that's perfectly fine. We had some bologna sandwiches here the other day with some freshly murdered deer, which I thought was a very very good and very tasty bologna, made out of some freshly slain deer. So if you haven't had the opportunity to try fresh deer meat, certainly recommend you do so. Now don't get it from people who don't know how to prepare it, because it has the worst gamey flavor that you could imagine if it's not prepared properly. However, when it's prepared properly, it is some of the best tasting meat I have ever had. My sister and her boyfriend are avid hunters, and every hunting season they do every variation of hunting with the exception of bow. They do muzzleloader, they do doe, they do buck, and probably 5 other things that I don't really know about because I myself am not a hunter and I don't really know much about it, though I've always wanted to. I've never really dove into that sort of thing. I can't imagine sitting outside in the cold for 10 to 15 hours doing literally nothing but sitting there, eyes peeled, looking, gun at the ready, to shoot something as it walks by. So, fortunately, however, her and her boyfriend are pretty good, and they've gotten quite a few deers last season, quite a few deers this season, and we were able to have a treat of some deer bologna. So I think she has one more large block of bologna left that's not been frozen, that's in the house. So actually, I've been have my eye on that for tomorrow's lunch. I'm pretty excited about that. Anyway, if you have not had the opportunity to try deer, do try to go out of your way to get a hold of some, because it is certainly worth your while. Deer bologna, deer jerky. We've been snacking on deer jerky. Now, I don't mean snacking on in the sense that every day we go to and pick up, but we've been snacking from time to time on some deer jerky, and let me tell you, it is the best jerky I have ever tasted in my life. And My sister's boyfriend does all of this at his house. And now I used to make jerky. I used to make beef jerky back in the day, and we're talking over 10 years ago. We would get the beef. I would mix the seasonings. I would use a dehydrator, I'd spread it out, dry it out, and oh my goodness, was it amazing. However, nothing comes close to his. His is ever so slightly spicy, just spicy enough to where you can taste the spice, but not spicy enough where you need water, and I am not a very spice-oriented person. However, I have been recently getting into spices a little bit more so. I mean, I do like spices, but spiciness is where I tend to draw the line quite often. Recently, I've been playing around a little bit with hot buffalo. Not regular buffalo sauce, but hot buffalo sauce, which does require either having the chicken with the hot buffalo dipped in some ranch to cool the heat, or having some water nearby to cool the heat. I'm not a very big hot food eater. But his beef jerky, or I'm sorry, his deer jerky does have just the right amount of heat to where you don't want to eat a ton of pieces of it, but you also don't need to go rushing for the nearest water fountain, or the nearest bottle of water, or the nearest jug of milk. So, that said, get a hold of some deer meat because it's amazing. And ladies and gentlemen, I believe that will be the end of this broadcast today. I certainly do appreciate you guys coming along with me on this trip, this adventure, whatever you want to call it. This journey of ANPR. I'm having a blast putting these out, and I certainly hope that you guys are also having a blast listening to these as well. As I said last time, I certainly would appreciate hearing from you. If you are listening, you have the ability to reach out to me through the comments in the video description below. There's also a link to our Discord, which has a little section in Discord entitled Mailbag. So if you want to write to me, and I'll read it out on the air, answer some questions, more than happy to do so. You can leave your question in the comment. Just let me know you want me to read it out, or you can let me know in Discord, as well as sending messages through YouTube. There is a plethora of ways to reach out to this broadcast, and I certainly hope that you do. My name is Ryder. This has been ANPR. Thank you very much for listening.